and welcome back to We Got This, the podcast that we started because we wanted our community to be able to fill in all the gaps of information that they could possibly need when going through cancer treatment, diagnosis, supporting their loved ones, all of the things. We are so grateful to be welcomed today by Kenny Perkins from All Talk Oncology. Welcome, Kenny.
Hey, thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So, you are such a great source of information for us on so many platforms and levels. I had such a great time chatting with you a while back on your podcast, and I figured what better way than for us to also, give all that great knowledge to our community. So, I wanted to bring you in, talk to you a bit about, a lot of the things I think that are really burning questions for the cancer community in general, and especially those with wegotthis.org who are, a lot of times facing a cancer diagnosis for the first time or living long term with these kinds of things. And that's really all of us anyway. So what I'd love to do, Kenny, is I'd love it if you don't mind, in your words, kind of explaining your passion and all of this into the oncology space and in your overall career, and then we'll just dive into throwing some questions at you if that's cool.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as she said, my name is Kenny Perkins. I am a board certified radiation therapist. I've been practicing now for well over 2 decades. I landed in this profession, the oncology world, by accident. I thought I was going to be an architect, and somehow I landed in the medical field from radiology to radiation oncology. I went into radiology to become a radiologic technologist first, because in my mind, once I figured out, I knew I wanted to get into the cancer industry as far as radiation oncology. I thought, wow, what if they come up with a cure for cancer, and then what am I going to do? So I decided to go to school, become a radiologic technologist first, and then continue my education and then became a radiation therapist. So that's kind of how my journey went, how I landed in this space. And then, you know, my podcast came about uh, as an idea. I had shared this idea with one of the physicians before, and I was like, wouldn't it be kind of cool if there was like a place where people can have a discussion about cancer and whatnot, and you know, kind of sit down. And she was like, "Oh, so you would like to be like the Oprah of cancer?" And she said it jokingly and kind of snubbed me a little bit, but my
And
answer
you were
was
like,
like
yes.
my answer was kind of like, "Yeah, actually." It really was. I mean, that's just my personality. So I was like, "Yeah." And so um I started this podcast called All Talk Oncology in the pandemic of April in 2020. We went live with this thing, and it's just been trucking along ever since. We have some phenomenal guests, and our whole goal, and the whole goal of creating All Talk Oncology, was to empower cancer patients through these insightful conversations that reinforces confidence and certainty about their cancer condition. So that was our motive, our whole thing of how we were going to move forward, and it still is. And since then, we just continue to add value. So that's who I am, and that's how I showed up in this space.
I love it, and it's so important, I'm so grateful that you created that platform for the podcast and so active on social media because, that's where we get a lot of our information when we're diagnosed or when we're living with this long term, and, like, we don't know where to turn to, and there's so much information out there. Like, not even alone misinformation or other stuff, just information in general is overloaded. And so, over these past years, especially since 2020, like, what are some of the biggest things you've seen that, like, really need to cut through the noise and patients and families really need to understand about, the cancer space?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because a lot of times people don't know anything about the noise. I mean,
Mhm.
we know about cancer. We may know someone who had cancer, but since it doesn't affect us directly, it's not like something that we come in contact and understand. Really, I mean, And that's where the change needs to happen, right? I mean, if someone gets sick and someone gets, you know, contracts a cold, we know what to do. We go down to the drugstore, we get whatever medications for a cold or flu and blah, blah, blah. But when you get diagnosed with cancer, it's a little bit overwhelming. And a lot of times the misconceptions, because of the things we saw on television or the things that we've heard about, interfere with what's reality. And so, that has been a big change for me as far as our approach, my team approach, and how we educate and give the information about cancer and trying to eliminate some of the misconceptions of it, right?
It's such a great point because I become a little jaded as, I'm 4 years in, but yeah, at the beginning, I didn't know about all that. Yeah, and you're like, "Where do I start?" And, you're kinda just bombarded with messages and other things, and I do think it's when we find the experts that we can trust, and I found that, like, once you find a few, you find a lot because you're like, "Okay, Kenny is interviewing with this doctor, and this doctor has some really great stuff to say, and Kenny trusts what he or she is saying. So, like, that's another, tool in my arsenal. And I think that's like an important thing when we raise awareness, not just about cancer information, but on who we're getting that information from. So appreciate you being a trusted source. Now I'm curious for everyone watching as I hear different things about, radiation oncology and all that, like what is the day-to-day that you're doing? Like is it scans? Is it, and forgive my naivety of this, but would love to kind of hear a day-to-day.
Yeah, for sure. You know, there is a lot of misconceptions about radiation oncology as well. It's like, oh my God, that's gonna burn you, and this is the situation. And a lot of times it's just not the truth. With radiation oncology, what do we treat? What types of cancers? We treat everything. We treat breasts, we treat lung, we treat brain, we treat prostate, right? We treat pancreatic cancers. We treat liver. We treat skin cancers. The list goes on what we can treat with radiation. And so a lot of times the misconceptions, because there are some side effects that happen with depending on the individual and the type of radiation or the type of diagnosis they have. But that's not the case with everyone. So that's what I like to clear up. Um, Typically, I see anywhere from 30 to 40 patients per day. Each patient being every 15 minutes. So I see about 4 patients per hour. Just to kind of give you an idea, and then you times that by over 2 decades. So how many patients have I seen, right, and treated? And our patients that come in for radiation oncology or for radiation therapy, they're being they're being treated anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks at a time. So it's a period. You get to learn more about that individual. You get to learn who they are, what they like, what they dislike, their families, some of their fears, things like that. So that is actually what attracted me to radiation oncology, is because, man, you get to build this relationship with these individuals. And to me, there's nothing more than just being able to form a bond and a connection with someone, probably in one of their most, vulnerable times in their life.
I love that so much, and that makes total sense, I guess, that it's that many patients, but I never really thought about it that way because as the patient, we're just coming in and seeing you guys. I have metastatic breast cancer, so I haven't had actually radiation on my breast because I haven't had surgeries needing that. But when I did have, metastases to my brain, I did just a week of radiation because I was getting such drastic headaches. And, 1, I'm so grateful it worked unbelievably, like, it's amazing, and then that mixed with the chemo I was on, like, I haven't had any recurrence in the brain for 3 years, knock on wood. But, which is awesome, yes.
Yes.
Um, but for that week straight that I went in for radiation, like, you guys are built a little like, oncology in general, I'm so grateful for, like, oncology nurses, my oncologist, like, it's just you guys have you're bred a certain way to, I don't know, save our lives. But when I would go in, like, it was you guys who would, like, 1, be so nice, so welcoming, always be like, "Do you want a picture?" I'd have, like, that mask on my face, like, "Oh, you want a photo or you want this?" Or and then at the end, the certificate and graduating, like, I got kinda that abbreviated experience, and I'm kinda grateful that I did because it was like, wow, like, that week that I had radiation, I was actually, like, a really powerful week for me. I ended up, one of the days I had radiation at UCLA, and then I actually went and recorded a reality show with Tori Spelling and, Dee McDermott. It was a booby bash that she this was a few years ago, and and then I went to the Hollywood Bowl and went to a Backstreet Boys concert, and it was, like, one of the most epic days of my life that I can remember, and, everyone was like, "How'd you do that from radiation, all this stuff?" And I was just so energized by 1, I was feeling better. I didn't have, like, it's like a few days into it, the steroids were working, the radiation was working, but it wasn't chemo, like, and I know of course, as you're hitting towards the end of a 28-day, 40-day stint, like, there's burns, there's other things, and everyone reacts differently. I definitely had fatigue after, but, like, during that time, I felt, like, empowered by you guys. I don't know, it's cool to kinda reflect on that and do you
Yeah,
directly, even though you weren't my radiation specialist, but, like, I respect what you do, and I appreciate it so much.
I appreciate it. You're quite the fighter.
The connections with patients, particularly when they first come in, maybe for our listeners in our community and for people who, support and might not ever be that patient coming in to do it. Um, what are kind of some of the things that you see that most people might be nervous about that there's really nothing to be scared of, or ways that you kind of help with that?
Well, I think fear is subjective. I mean, I don't never want to minimize anyone's fear. I just take whatever it is that they're going through and then try to address that issue, right? So a lot of times people don't know what to expect during radiation treatments. Maybe they haven't seen the machine. How is this going to make them feel? Are they going to be radioactive after their treatment? Can they be around family members? Can they be around grandkids? Things like that. There's a lot of that taking place during radiation, during the first like day or so, right? So we're kind of helping you, you know, go through this process. And I think after the first week or so, you kind of get an idea. You're coming in at a specific time. You realize that you're not radioactive. You realize that you can proceed with your life, whether that's working out, going to work, doing whatever it is that you're normally doing. We say keep the routine. As long as your body is able to manage that, and you're okay, then I would say continue with that. When we have patients that continue working out, continue working, I mean, it all depends on the individual. It's not a cookie cutter that's specific for everyone, right? Everyone is different, so you gotta take that in consideration when someone's coming through your doors.
Definitely. Some things that I've heard from some friends who have gone through, longer radiation than I had was like needing to get natural fiber clothing and things like that. Is that always the case or not necessarily?
No, I mean that has nothing to do with your treatments, your
Okay.
clothing, even as far as what you're wearing.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was a friend with breast cancer that after her mastectomy, when she started radiation, they, like, told her last minute that she needed all, like, natural fibers or cottons, and so she was, like, scrambling to find those things.
yeah. Well, I think it's
Not really.
important. I think it's important that you find something that's comfortable to wear. And imagine, let's take breasts since we're on this topic.
Sure.
You're coming in, 4 to 6 weeks, depending on, whatever dose the doctor's prescribed for you. And so after the third week, Monday through Friday, 3 weeks consecutive of treatments, that's 15 treatments basically. Your skin starts to get the effect right, is sensitive. It's like imagine laying out in the sun. You don't feel the rays. You feel the heat, but you don't feel the sun rays that are giving you that tan. But it's there.
Mhm.
And so it's the same thing with radiation. We're affecting you, right? And your skin is getting affected, but you can't see it. But after like the third week or so, you might feel that touch where it's sensitive. So what are you putting on? You might want to put something that's more comfortable, right? Something that's, that's not sensitive to the touch that can, you can manage. And so those are the things that I would say you want to be comfortable with.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Um, in the space of radiation, just like the word radiation, in general, and like you were saying of worrying about being radioactive, which, at first I smiled like funny, but it's not ridiculous. Like I remember when I was first diagnosed, my daughter was 1, and when I had my PET scan, like they told me not to hold her for 24 hours, or, there are certain things where we do have to take stuff into consideration. But I think that is a big concern in general, like, whether it be radiation from radiation treatments or radiation from scans or mammograms or CTs, like, it's definitely a hot topic right now that has a lot of opinions. So I'd love to hear, like, just some facts and insights from you.
Well, for sure. I mean, one, a PET scan in comparison to radiation therapy is two different things. It's two different modalities. One, you're being injected with a radioactive type of isotope that goes through your body to try to see where the tumor is at. That's different compared to us
Mhm.
administering radiation. It's like an X-ray. An X-ray, you fell out of the tree. Did you break your arm? Yes or no? The X-ray will demonstrate that you're done. With radiation therapy, we're about 1,000 times stronger than an X-ray. X-ray deals with something that's called like kilovolts. I mean, I'm not trying to talk over you, but I just want to give you an idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Kilovolts is what we utilize when we're doing with X-ray. We call it KV, right, for short. But when we're dealing with a treatment, you utilizing radiation as a treatment. You're given megavolts, and so that's a million. So it's 1,000 times stronger than an X-ray. So the reason why is because you're using this radiation as a treatment, right, versus a diagnosis. So that's the difference between that. Um, Whether or not are you radioactive with external beam radiation? No, you're not. You're not radioactive. If someone inserts a radioactive source into you, and you have that in your body, that's different. You have a radioactive source that's emitting radiation, right? That's something completely different. So I just want to make sure I clarify that radiation therapy,
Yeah, yeah.
when you come in for treatments, you're not radioactive. You can go around your family, your friends, and do whatever it is that you normally do. If you're having some other treatment outside of radiation therapy, that's different. You need to consult with your physician and make sure that those things are not you're not radioactive or emitting radiation. So that's I like to keep it simple for the listeners.
Yeah, no, that's a really great way of like just hearing the treatment first diagnosis is the perfect explanation because as a lot of us are going through these things, it's so many things. And not only are we having to understand it for ourselves, but then we have all these questions coming from like the people who love us and all this stuff. And so it's like we need to become a bit of the expert in some ways, or at least being able to, like, not only understand it, but then, re-explain it, which takes, like, a whole other level of understanding,
For
and so it's
sure.
so helpful when it's really explained in a way like you just did, so I
Oh,
appreciate that a lot.
yeah, yeah, thank you. And this is what I always say. Listen, you know, we can only imagine what it is to get diagnosed, me myself, right?
Mhm.
I've done with thousands of patients. And what I do know from experience is that it's overwhelming when you're getting a lot of information and you just been diagnosed. So, what is the suggestion? Suggestion is basically have people around you, formulate a team, and usually the team starts with those closest to you in your circle. and make sure that they're there for you and accompany you to some of your appointments. Maybe they have questions because you can't remember it all. You are overwhelmed. This thing is like, what am I going to do? Your brain is going 1,000, miles per second. And so
Yeah.
having someone there that can, take notes and, ask the questions that you may not have the capacity to ask at the time is great, right? So that way everyone stays on the same page, and we can keep things in a somewhat at a homeostatic type path, right? So yeah, that's what my
Yeah.
suggestion.
So when I found out that I had the couple tumors in my brain, they used the word gamma knife, and I knew nothing about radiation. And then I'm hearing like the word knife, and I'm like, is this gonna hurt or all that? And then of course, not at all. It was really one of the things, especially since I didn't do it long enough to like have burns or other things. It was one of the more enjoyable treatments I've actually had. Um, where do some of those, like, terminology and things come from? I know that's kind of, like, a really big question on that, and I'm asking because I don't fully understand it, but for, like, the average person that's hearing some of these, like, scarier terms that end up being not very scary at all, are there maybe some kinda, like, more commonly used things like gamma knife? I've heard that a lot, or things that can help us kinda understand it.
Well, one of the things is that, you know, everything has its name and the way it stands out, right? We call the radiation treatments that administer radiation. The machines are LINAC accelerators, right? That somehow that's been associated with it for so long. But then you come out with different type of technology or different machines, right? And there's a true beam type technology. There's a halcyon. Right now, there's a new technology out. It's called reflection. Reflection is where they, inject a radioactive isotope like a PET CT. So you are radioactive during the time that you are having radiation treatments, and then this machine detects the radioactive substance within your body and where the tumor is at, and then it administers radiation. Where these names come up from, I mean, it's the manufacturers, they come up with them, and for whatever reason, but it's more important to understand what the modality does than anything, right? Regardless of the name. So what does this do? Am I going to feel it, right? Is this something I'm going to, that's, I need to recover from, that's going to hurt me? Am I going to be able to function afterward? I mean, there's questions like that, right? That you want to be able to ask your physician and the people around you and your team. So, um, you know, it's things like that. I mean, radiation oncology is it's just expanding in its way and in how we deliver treatments and how we give them. And yeah, I'm excited to just be a part of something that's helping individuals out here.
Yeah, it's so amazing, like, how targeted it can be. I know I mentioned with, my only experiences with my brain and having that, like, double-sided mask, and then the little bit of time after radiation, this was when my hair was just growing back from my initial chemo. So it was like I had hair, not like long hair, but I had hair, and then, like, the exact bald spot of where it targeted kinda helped it click for me, like, how targeted that was, right? And I mean, it has to be because obviously you're not, like, trying to radiate my whole brain. Are there any radiation therapies that you do feel more? Or, like, is it pretty standard that it's kinda happening and we're not feeling it at the time of it, and it's sometimes, like, after effects?
Well, all radiation treatments are targeted, right? I mean, the so what happens is, you know, when you come in, they do what is called a simulation, right? Because they're going to create this treatment plan specific for you and wherever your cancer diagnosis may be. So these contours, it's a team of individuals that come up with this, what angles they're going to treat you at, what's the dose, how the
Mhm.
dose is administered across the entire field, what has the best homogeneous type treatments so that the dose is evenly distributed. All this stuff is a part of radiation oncology, and it's a team of individuals. Everyone plays their role. Physicists, dosimetrists, the physicians, the radiation therapists, and all of that is created so that we can give you the best possible treatment, so that you can have the best possible outcome. So, it's things like that. I mean, it's complex. You know, it is complex, but at the same time, it's very specific. Where we treat, where we aim that beam, is very specific, and so um, we we make sure that we're in the specific location because we always take images. We take images to make sure that we are directing the radiation exactly where the doctor has prescribed it, and so that's done every day. It's done every day.
Yeah. For children, I'd imagine, like, do they have to be put under for these treatments, or how does that work?
Yeah, but in my experience, early on in my career, I was able to treat um, some pediatric patients, and
Mhm.
yeah, because it's so specific in location on
Yeah.
where you need to have the kids put to sleep. So there's an anesthesiologist there in my experience that I've had. It's been an anesthesiologist there, put the kid to sleep, making sure that we're pinpointing the exact area of what they want, and it's precise. And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of radiation treatments. I mean, there's things within that field, protons, right? I mean, uh, but it's very specific on where we point that beam.
You're in it every day with, like, all the verbiage and things that, like,
Yeah,
we learned in high school and
yeah,
in grade school in science that, like, we were, like, took for granted kinda because I don't use it on a day to day, right? Thank
yeah.
God you do. It's interesting. I say that about the pediatric patients because that's something I never clicked in my head, like, for scans. Like, can sometimes take for granted that, like, I don't get claustrophobic and I can lay in an MRI machine, and you don't think of, like, that children, that's hard to do, and I thought of it more when I was having radiation because, I mean, there were a couple times that they were pinging me like, "Hey, please make sure to stay still,"
Yeah,
and I hadn't had that before, but, it is a very flat surface. I was having, like, some back spasms and certain things that you're like, "I don't wanna mess this up." But yeah, I can only imagine that depending on the age, people's nerves, just like a lot of that stuff is hard to control. So it's so great that it's made so specifically for the patients that you have. And
mhm,
like you said, I mean, you're seeing these people over periods of times that, you really get to know them and they really get to know you, which, is just it's just so important. Like, I always advocate my number one tip, like, when asked by anyone, is to really have a care team that you trust. Like, I really think that there's not much more important than that in treatment because, like I said at the beginning, it's like, you know, we have so much information out there and so many people, so many times that we can question or, nobody has every answer to everything. And so when we have the right experts that we trust to follow on a regular basis, that we trust with our care, it makes all that a lot less stressful. But it's a lot to get there,
yeah.
I also don't take that for granted at all because depending on where you have access to and what's around it can definitely be a lot. Are there any things, from the advocacy perspective and just in cancer in general that really stick out to you as people are going through, treatment as a whole and living with cancer?
Yeah, we focus on at All Talk Oncology. We focus obviously on the patient, but also the family members, right? Yeah, it's important. The friends and family members because um, when you go through cancer as a patient, a lot of times the people that are around you, it's as if they're going through cancer. It's as if they have been diagnosed with cancer because they're there in the trenches with you. And so for us, we never want to skip them. And so we make sure we focus on them. And then also the caregivers. A lot of times caregiving comes from family members as well. It could be that you have a source or whatnot. But caregiving is important too because you're being relied upon. And a lot of times caregivers feel guilty for not taking a break. And the thing is, you need to take a break. You need to be able to find balance in your caregiving because without you, you're not going to be good to the patient to be able to get them through that. So we focus on how do we get the caregivers the balance that they need and being able to take the breaks necessary in order so they can refuel their tank. Um, we have the professionals that come in here, your team. It's important that the people who you have on your team are administering some type of hope. I just had this conversation with a surgeon yesterday. We're talking about it's important that you have people on your team that has not lost hope. And even though your prognosis or you may be, not the best, still having someone on your team that has hope and hasn't lost it is extremely important. And so I'm saying all of this to say, as you go through this process, um, I see it all. I see when you come in and you feeling vulnerable and you may not know what to expect. I see the face on your family members and your friends and how they have the concern. I see the face of the caregivers and what they're going through and maybe be suffering from burnout. And so it's up to me, my personal challenge. It's not in my job description, right? But
Yeah.
as my own individual, who I am as a person, it's important for me to get you in a place where you can cope with these things and that you feel that you're being supported and that you feel that um you're getting the adopting the right mindset in order to get through this type of treatment. That's how I have approached this my entire career. And so now to be in this position to not only just be a resource and an advocate, I want to be able to help individuals as they going through this journey. So that's me. And that's
I
how we're
love
doing it.
everything yeah, I love all that so much, breaking down a few of the things. So to start off, I mean, the invisible patient, the caregiver, is just so critical. I think it's so amazing that not only do you recognize that, but like you're actually practicing that. And like you said, it's not part of your job description, but it's part of what makes you so good at what you do. And also all the pieces that you're dedicating a lot of your time and energy on being, the male Oprah for the oncology space. We've done a lot with, the caregivers research program at Mass General Hospital, and so I've taken a lot of time personally to research that because it matters a lot to me, what my husband is going through, my parents, my family and friends, and it's a big reason why we're called "We Got This," we're not "I got this" or "You got this," it's a "we," and that "we" just always broadens, like now you're in my we, right? And it's making this team aspect not just in cancer but like in life more expansive. And what's interesting is initially when I had this idea for like this nonprofit gift registry for cancer patients like we do for babies and weddings, it was really because I was getting bombarded with questions and it was a lot. I didn't know how to answer it. And so I was trying to create a solution for fellow patients, survivors, and thrivers to have. And as we've built it out, I realized very early on that it's it's for the benefit of the patients and the survivors and all of that, but there would be exponentially more people visiting the website that are supporters or caregivers or donors, because when you think about someone, like, creating a registry or going through this treatment, they're one person coming in, and like you said, I mean, even who you're seeing, like, you're seeing one patient, and then they might be there with their family or and who's not there too. And so, something I mentioned to you earlier that we added on, and I would love to follow up with you too and send you kind of what we have so far and get insights from you on what we might be missing in there also, is we did a full revamp of part of our website a couple months ago, and we added what's called a we call a resource directory. So, We Got This were 3 R's, where the gift registry, resources like other nonprofits, free, resources and things that people can access, and then we're recommendations, and those are like the products and services that people are like, "What do you need? How can I help? What can I get you?" Or "What should I register for?" That's all that stuff, and so on both ends, like, on the recommendation side, we have some products like Bee Cure and other, like, burn creams and certain stuff that I'm thinking just directly to radiation, and then things like, there's, like, a new it's called Vom mat, it's like a barf mat that you can put on your bed, like, things that are very stereotypical, like, symptoms, and then things that just, like, make you happy and feel human when you're going through hard times. Or stuff that just says F cancer on it. We work a lot with F cancer and that they're a resource and a recommendation. And then over on the resource side, things like your podcast, things like other nonprofits, and so I say all that one so that people listening know that these are all there, but also because you would just be such a great resource for us to, as you think of things, or I'm sure there's things if you look through and would love to follow up with you on that we can keep adding to that. And it came from that initial point when I was diagnosed and my husband was hyperventilating into a paper bag because we just saw the PET scan that, I had more cancer in my liver than I even did in my breast. And that's when I got handed kinda just a copy sheet of paper that had some resources on it, and that's when I was like, "Man, like, how can we make this easier, and how can we make it" it's not the hospital's responsibility to necessarily figure that out, like, they're treating us, and so how can we supplement that? Everything you just said reminded me of my whole life's mission and how we align so well, so, um I want to throw that all out there because I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying and appreciate it so much because as a patient, we feel it. Like, I know that my oncologist like is recommending and thinking of things for me the way she would think of it for herself, or if I were her daughter or something like that. So
Important, right?
it saves our lives, not only in our ability to survive and stay alive, but in our ability to live and to thrive, and that's, like, what we talk about, and it's exciting, I get really energized as we talk through this because this is the piece that, like, people need to know is there for them and exists, and if they're in a space where they're not feeling comfortable, it's hard, it's a lot of effort to, like, get other recommendations and stuff, but, like, the Kenny Perkins exist.
Mhm.
You have proof right here.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, you don't need to go through this alone in all aspects. And, um, and that's the piece that we're continually finding new ways to get the word out there. Like you're saying, when you started your podcast and All Talk Oncology in 2020, it's like I think one of the most important things we do is these kinds of conversations and helping each other for more people to know that our platforms exist because we're all trying to just like get out there for people so that they know that they're not alone and that they're supported. So
One
you're
100%.
such a key piece in that, and I'm grateful that we've gotten connect through that. Um, I'm gonna put you on the spot real quick, um, because I planted the seed before we started recording, and it seemed like you were convincible, and so we'll cut this out if it's like, "Oh, no, I'm not gonna do it." But if you're around this Saturday, this episode will air later, but right now we're heading into October. It's a big month. Um, October, of course, being Breast Cancer Awareness Month. At We Got This, we support all types of cancer. But because I do happen to have breast cancer myself, in October it takes on a lot of meaning. CSCLA, Cancer Support Communities Los Angeles, is doing their second annual Over the Edge event I was telling you about. So I'm gonna have to send you the reel from last year. I did it with my friends. If you know Glozell Green, she's a OG YouTuber famous for the cinnamon challenge.
Mm.
She's hilarious. She's coming out again to do it with us this year. My friend Annie Bond, who's a fellow metastatic breast cancer thriver, did it with me last year, and Grace Helbig, who's an amazing comedian, breast cancer survivor too. We're gonna be rappelling 14 stories off the Andaz Hotel on October 4th. And if you decide that it's something you wanna come out and do, your spot is our treat. And, we make custom capes that say "We got this" on it.
Oh, that's classic.
And, yeah, and if you decide it's for you, we'll take this VO and we'll have video footage of maybe you and I rappelling down the hotel together.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, send me that information. I'll definitely take a look at it with my team for sure. They keep me busy. I think I have
Yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
speaking engagement, but man, I can't only imagine propelling off a building. I mean, and it would be you for sure to go ahead and create something like this. I love it.
I didn't create it, but I embraced it wholeheartedly.
Yeah, yeah.
They're great. Examples of other organizations, and kind of going into that with what I said with the resource directory. I'm a big, better together person. Like we're all stronger together. And so CSCLA, cancer support communities in general, they're, nationwide are one of those great examples of support. What are some of your favorite, resources, that you recommend to people?
You know what? I think I my resources are everyone who comes on my show. I think that's important,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think people can really get behind that. And for me, who we interview, we interview everyone, right? Nonprofit organizations, caregivers, professionals, patients, the loved ones. We've had some phenomenal guests, and for me, they're the resource, right? Because they come in and they drop gems that are going to allow you to benefit along that journey. And it's like a
Mm,
cheat code, right? I mean, for me, when you go through something like this, you don't know what to expect. But imagine you have someone who has a similar situation as yours and then can give you the tips and what they've done and how they've gotten through it. It's going to help you. And so I utilize that as my resource. I have a lot of professional people that are going to be coming in. There's some new technology that's happening in radiation oncology, um, that I'm
well,
going to be covering on that. Like I kind of mentioned about the reflection. I mean, these guys are, they're utilizing, um, they found ways to be able to pinpoint the tumor in real time as you're giving the treatment. So it's things like that. I want to make sure
yeah.
that I empower you, the listener, the caregiver, the family member, with information that you can take back and go like, hey, to your team, hey, do you guys have what is called a vision RT? I mean, this kind of thing, it tracks the patient in real time. Like if they move like submillimeter movement, it stops the beam. And in other words, the radiation is always going to be in the correct place. Do you guys utilize that? I mean, that's me giving a resource, right? I mean, so I try my best to just anyone I bring along on my show to be the resource, and that's kind of how I do it.
Love it.
I always say, for me, I at All Talk Oncology is a face. Sometimes you're looking out and reaching out to a resource, and you don't know who to contact, and you're looking for something. But with All Talk Oncology, you have me. You have my team. There's a face behind it, right? And I'm going to do my best to make sure I direct you to the correct area, um, that's maybe in your city or in your facility. And we're a global enterprise, right? I mean, our guests from all over. We've been all over the place. New Mexico, Saint, South Africa, Australia, India, Greece, Canada, you name it, we've covered, because cancer doesn't discriminate and it's all over the world. So for us to be a resource, no matter where you're at, it's actually a privilege for me.
Love it. So you got your day-to-day, job. You got your podcast, very active on Instagram and socials, and then I know you mentioned speaking, so I'm assuming you do keynote speaking as well.
Yeah.
Anything else I'm missing here that you wanna make sure people know where to find you?
You know what? I mean, you said it all. I mean, you can find me on any of your social media platforms. Anywhere you listen to your podcast, you can find us there: Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to it. Our website is alltalkoncology.com. You can reach out to me, my team will respond to you, making sure that we direct you in the right location because you're not alone in this. We're in this together. And that's what we always say. And that's our catchphrase. And we stand behind it.
Well, that's a mic drop moment for me there. So I've enjoyed so much talking to you. This is the second time we've gotten to record a podcast together.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your energy, your dedication and positivity towards the community. I really feel it. I know a lot of people really feel it. So if you don't already follow Kenny and All Talk Oncology, please do. If you ever have any questions about it, you can always, reach out, of course, through Kenny's platforms. If you reach out through us through We Got This, we'll make sure to relay the message. I really appreciate your time and expertise, and I'm excited to keep seeing all the amazing stuff that you do for our community and all the people who support us.
Well, thank you too. You're doing an amazing job, and you are a fighter. The things that you're going through, and your family, and you still maintain a smile on your face. Anyone that's listening in to you, that tunes into you, you want to know what resilience looks like. You're looking at it right here. This is a individual that she is going to fight and do whatever she can, and she does that and she gives back. So thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely, and thank you so much. That means a lot. Let's keep doing what we're doing because I think it's super important.
Yeah.
All right. Well, together we got this, and thank you so much for your time. Everyone's going to benefit from it.
Thank you.
We got this.